in the end, because The Undertaker was victorious at WrestleMania and Shane McMahon got control of Monday Night Raw, at least for a brief stint, but he did get control of Monday Night Raw to show us what he could do and showcasing his talents and giving opportunities to people who had never been given chances before to create in a WWE ring, like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and different names that we had never seen before on Monday Night Raw. He did a great job as the general manager of Monday Night Raw, and I give him credit where credit is due. So everybody knew going into this match between Shane McMahon and The Undertaker what the outcome was going to be. Shane was going to get his chance, and The Undertaker was going to get another victory on his unbelievable record at WrestleMania, just to allow The Undertaker to come back to create with someone bigger than what he did this year. And I believe it's going to be someone like The Rock, Sting, somebody like that we're going to see The Undertaker create with. Now, there are predictions up there in the air that are kind of out there, like Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker. Let me say this prediction is kind of out there. It pretty much doesn't have a chance of happening, but I would like to see The Undertaker and Kurt Angle in a match if this was going to be The Undertaker's final match, because the match they had in 2006, that would be a great match. The match in 2006, I remember it like it was yesterday. So many people were talking about this match for just how much of a pure wrestling match it was. The psychology of the match was at an all-time high. The conversation was blowing up on social media. Everybody was talking about The Undertaker and Kurt Angle's match, and I can see why, because of the different styles that we saw in this match. Of course, The Undertaker versus Sting is a match that I'm really high on, but there's another match, too, that a lot of people have been talking about, the possibility of us seeing The Undertaker going up against the Roman Empire, Roman Reigns. And how about if Roman Reigns were champion going into this match with The Undertaker, and The Undertaker loses to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns ends The Undertaker's career? That's a little bit interesting, but I don't think Roman Reigns is a big enough name to put in the ring against The Undertaker. I mean, obviously, the way it would go is that Roman Reigns would be the heel in the storyline. The Undertaker would be the fan favorite. But I think that match would just be a match The Undertaker would just be throwing an opponent for. So I think The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns, there are far better opponents that you could have for The Undertaker, and I just wouldn't be interested in seeing The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. I'd more so go for something like The Undertaker facing somebody that we'd never seen The Undertaker face before at a WrestleMania under these circumstances, like The Undertaker versus The Rock. I mean, that would be great, seeing the great one being the one to defeat The Undertaker and becoming the one. I remember a poster that a fan had made as a fan graphic where they said The Undertaker was defeated by The Rock for The Rock to become the one, the great one defeating the one to become the one at WrestleMania, being referencing obviously the retirement of The Undertaker. And you would have thought, when they were ending the streak of The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30, they would have had someone far more entertaining on the microphone like Dwayne Johnson to come in and be the guy to end The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania, but that didn't happen. It was Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar had that reserved for him, obviously, with Brock Lesnar signing the contract the way he did in 2012. He knew he was coming back to end The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. They had to give something for Brock Lesnar to stay there and to keep Brock Lesnar happy, and obviously that was what was in his contract, and Brock Lesnar got what he wanted, and it pissed a lot of wrestling fans off, and even The Undertaker himself didn't want to lose his streak to Brock Lesnar. And can you blame The Undertaker for feeling that way? I would feel the same way. After 20 years of having defeated so many legends, over 10 world champions in this streak, more than that, and then you lose your streak to Brock Lesnar, a man who you had never defeated before in your career by pinfall or submission until 2015 SummerSlam. But the thing is, yeah, you may have never defeated Brock Lesnar, but did Brock Lesnar deserve to have the honor of ending The Undertaker's streak, even though he had a lot of history with The Undertaker, which was the argument that was presented? Okay, Brock Lesnar is a legend like The Undertaker, and he has more history with The Undertaker than anyone right now on the active roster. But I mean, what happened to the scenario of The Undertaker versus Kane? Masked Kane versus Undertaker. That would have been a great way for The Undertaker to say goodbye. The Undertaker loses to Kane or beats Kane in one final match, and then The Undertaker retires the following night on Raw with a goodbye, and of course it would obviously be the biggest goodbye that we had heard of in years for The Undertaker. What happened to The Undertaker versus Masked Kane? That would have been great to see. That there would just be something about the wrestling psychology. I know we've seen history repeat itself with The Undertaker and Kane on and off again over the years, but I mean, that would be far better than looking at The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. Yeah, The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns is different. I'm just not a fan of that match. I can think of 100 different opponents for The Undertaker to have. Even The Undertaker versus AJ Styles or Samoa Joe debuting from NXT would look better than seeing The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. There's just something about the Roman Reigns character that I was just never a fan of. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. I am the guy. That's what he's calling himself now, just to kind of kayfabe the fact that everybody hates him, and that was to be expected. Everybody was going to hate Roman Reigns for being champion. I hated the whole idea of Reigns being champion, and who could blame me? Out of every name that you had on the new talent initial roster, the fucking Shield is what you keep going back to. I mean, we've seen Seth Rollins as champion. We know what Dean Ambrose can do as the number one contender and possibly the champion. And here's the thing, Dean Ambrose is way more over with fans than what Roman Reigns ever was. Yeah, Roman Reigns has his fans. They do exist out there. I'm not going to kayfabe that. And The Rock, of course, obviously supporting family along with the Usos. They're doing everything to get people to support Roman Reigns. But, I mean, the fans are with Dean Ambrose. And right now, in terms of a popular wrestler out of the Shield, when you don't have Seth Rollins around, put Dean Ambrose in the ring with anybody. Chris Jericho to The Undertaker. And you have a match people are going to be talking about. So if you wanted to choose between champions, between Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose is your go-to guy right now. I think Dean Ambrose is obviously the one who is over, and he's someone who you can put in the ring against The Undertaker and make it work more so than Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. Going back to how I said, The Undertaker still has this chance to create with so many people that I think would just get the attention of people and keep the attention on whatever was happening. I mean, again, there are so many chances for The Undertaker that are still kind of up in the air out there now, and I just think people are just drawing their own conclusions about the future of The Undertaker because they may have read some report on The Undertaker having an injury. They may have read some report on how The Undertaker is considering slowing it down and backing off. But I don't think that we've seen the last of The Undertaker because The Undertaker, like I said, is just that guy that you expect to be there all the time, the guy that you expect to have one match every year, no matter if it's at WrestleMania, SummerSlam. And let me say this too, in 2015, I really appreciated how they kept up with The Undertaker wrestling. He wrestled at WrestleMania, he wrestled at SummerSlam, he wrestled at Hell in a Cell, he wrestled again at Survivor Series for his 25th year. Some of the matches were with the Wyatt family, some of the matches were with Brock Lesnar, but I mean, The Undertaker kept wrestling in 2015, and he showed and told me a lot. He showed me that he can still wrestle and he can still go at over 50 years of age, and he showed me that we haven't seen the last of him anytime soon. So people are just kind of speculating on the future of The Undertaker. 2015 told me a lot about The Undertaker. In 2016, I think it's just the mere start of what The Undertaker is going to do years from now. I think The Undertaker will continue wrestling. Let me say this. I'll make a gamble, and I'll go on record for saying The Undertaker will wrestle well into the next decade. That's an additional 10 years for The Undertaker, bringing him up to well over 30 years. If Ric Flair can do it, obviously someone like The Undertaker can do it. And I've searched for the answer to the future of The Undertaker in interviewing wrestlers for years. I've interviewed so many people who've had the chance to work with The Undertaker, and they've all told me the same thing. They believe that luck has had nothing to do with it. I interviewed a man, Harley Race, a number of years ago, who said that luck had nothing to do with The Undertaker's success. If luck had anything to do with it, you would have thought luck would have ran out a long time ago. And that were the truer words that had ever been spoken by anyone that I had ever interviewed in the wrestling industry. Another guy who I interviewed was Mark Canterbury, Henry Godwin. Many of you probably remember him as part of the Godwins. He's really good friends with The Undertaker, and he told me the same thing. He believed The Undertaker was going to keep on wrestling until he was physically unable to do it. A number of other individuals who had worked with The Undertaker and laid down for The Undertaker in some matches, even jobbers, told me the same thing. With no disrespect to the wrestlers who had worked with The Undertaker was believed to wrestle until he was physically unable to do it. And wrestling The Undertaker was unlike anything they had ever done in their career. And that was probably trying to get me to believe something because I didn't really understand, what was going on with wrestling at the time, probably about 10 years ago. And I was just the interviewer in these scenarios with all these different wrestlers. But I believed every word they were saying because The Undertaker just seemed to be one of those consummate performers who performed at his best when certain times of the year would roll around like WrestleMania and SummerSlam. And at these certain events, The Undertaker would just put on a show that everybody would be captivated by and go home talking about, and they are still doing it years after The Undertaker's debut. I've had the chance to both see The Undertaker perform on TV and live and in person. And let me tell you this, seeing The Undertaker perform live and in person is unlike anything that a wrestling fan had ever experienced in their life. If you've never seen The Undertaker wrestle before, take advantage of it if you have the opportunity, especially now. Because what The Undertaker's putting out there and being known for are these incredible matches, and I can see why. Matches with the likes of Shane McMahon, Bray Wyatt, Brock Lesnar in recent years. I mean, he's just putting on a show that people are still going home talking about over 2 decades after his debut back in 1990, and people are just honoring the career of The Undertaker. And can you see why? I can, because I've been a wrestling fan for over 20 years, and I've just enjoyed every moment and every match The Undertaker's given us and had with so many incredible names. And that's why I say The Undertaker still has just as much a chance to create with so many new talented wrestlers as he did 10, 15 years ago. And he's still performing, if not better, just at his best, as he did so many years ago. And that's why I believe, despite all the injuries and all the speculations, all the conclusions that may be being drawn about The Undertaker, I don't think we've seen the last of The Undertaker, and we're not going to be hearing about the last of The Undertaker anytime soon. The Undertaker will be doing anything but resting in peace. Give me your thoughts if you've got any in the comments of this video blog on my channel. You can subscribe to it at Jonathan Clarke 22. You can follow me on Twitter at Jonathan Clarke 1, and you can watch me on YouTube at Jonathan Clarke 22. I'm your host, Jonathan Clarke, who refuses to rest in peace with these rumors of The Undertaker seeing the last of him, and I will see you again next week. Like what you hear? Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't go anywhere. HEW Entertainment Radio will return with the latest news, music, interviews, discussion, and Jonathan Clarke next.
When something takes place in the world of professional wrestling, you know where to go.